Hey guys, it's Bree, and today I'm going to be covering some books in honor of this Friday, which is Native American Heritage Day, I believe is the full title. Yes, Native American Heritage Day. I had to read quite a few Native American books as an anthropology student at University of Montana. So I have today 6 books that I had to read. So if you're interested in getting to know a little bit more about Native American history or culture, especially in the past is primarily where my books are based, here's 6 books to try out. So the first one is kind of a classic. This is Fool's Crow by James Welch. This follows a young man named Fool's Crow. He is, I believe, a Blackfeet. Yes, he's part of the Blackfeet Indians. And this is in the 1870s. He is a medicine man with a lot of visions, and he sees his people needing to go to war, basically. Yes, he knows his tribe must either fight a brave but futile war or surrender their lands. So it's this kind of interacting with non-natives coming into the land and the struggles that start to ensue. There's some battles and things like that. This is a really good book. I had to read it for Native American Ethics, I think was the class I took. I think. That's where a lot of these books are from. But it was actually really good. It is fiction, so if you're not super into nonfiction, but you kind of want to dip your toe into this world, this is a good place to start. A lot of people I know have read it, and pretty much everyone liked it. It does take place in Montana, obviously. I went to school in Montana. So, good place to start. I like to actually willingly read this one because sometimes you get assigned books and they're just very dull. This one's not dull. Next up, this book I read in the same class. It is The World We Used to Live In by Deloria Jr. And this book basically follows, it's a study on the realm of the spiritual and talks about medicine men. So we have Fool's Crow, who is a medicine man in this book. This follows the different practices and studies of medicine men. So each person was assigned a chapter. I read one chapter with my group and we presented on that. It just goes through how things have changed, different accounts of medicine men, how does it work, just kind of a cool, easy to get into read about the study of medicine men. So if that's what you're interested in, check that one out. Similar, once again, Walking in the Sacred Manor, Healers, Dreamers, and Pipe Carriers, Medicine Women of the Plains Indians. So similar to this book, but we are covering medicine women. I think I preferred this one when I had to read it. And it talks about how they were healers and times throughout there's also myths and things that are talked about. Callings, dreams in the spirit world, adulthood, and it just goes through women that were also healers and medicine women. So this one covers the same sacred concept as the previous book, but we are covering medicine women or pipe carriers, dreamers, people that were in touch with this higher world, but women. So those are basically the 3 that had to do with medicine men and women. These 3 books, more of the sacred spiritual aspects. These 3 books I read for an anthropology class specifically. Those were for an ethics class to get you through understanding. There was some cool history that we did, but we didn't have any books on that. So if you ever want to look into the history, start with these. This next one is Northwest Native Americans, Anthropology. Two Fish in Common was one that we read, and it was the ethnohistory of the Lummi Indian salmon fishing. So this one talks about the Lummi Indians are in northwestern Washington, and they primarily were salmon fishers. Yes, fishing. I almost said hunting. Sorry. And it talks about in the past 150 years how politics and society have changed and how their tribe is changing, and it's all through the fishing is how it's explained basically, and it just kind of goes through why are certain things the way they are. Sometimes this one could get a little depressing when you're reading it, which is to be expected. So from this study, the book is compelling and well documented, is also understated, frequently allowing the actions of the myriad contending interest groups to speak for themselves. So there's not a lot that the author says on behalf of who he's studying. It's a lot of you just see what's happening and you kind of come to your own ideas and see the issues that are still very present. Then this one is more of a case study. At one point in time, it's very short, as you can see, the Kwakiutl. So this is I've heard this pronounced two different ways. I'm not sure which one's correct. Kwakiutl or Kwakiutl? Kwakiutl. I used to know how to say this. Indians of British Columbia. This follows Ronald, Rohner, and Evelyn. Wow, Batier? I am struggling with pronouncing things today. I am sorry. And they lived in the village in the 1960s, and this is basically their study of present. When was this published? Because it kind of talks about the present state as well as. So this was written in 1970. Talks about the village from an anthropological standpoint, which the point of anthropology is to study a culture other than your own usually and just observe. So that's what this is. It's observing this group. And it talks about the different traditions. There are photos, what's it like to grow up as the children, difficulties that they may be facing, salmon fishing again, just like this one was talking about salmon fishing. That's a big deal in this one as well. And then the final book that is definitely very academic leaning, pages are very small, is Indians of the Northwest Coast. This is by Philip Drucker. We read this one for the same class, and it just goes over pretty much everything from economy to whatnot. So this is basically originally published in the 1950s. Drucker is known as one of the more prominent anthropologists that studied the Indians of the Northwest Coast, as the book is called, or Native Americans. And it goes through economy, material culture, society, which involves a lot, cycle of life, ceremonies, and the art. So it's kind of an all-encompassing, and it is older, so there's some issues. Obviously it needs to be updated, but if you're looking for more of a historical anthropological examination, this one's not too bad. So those are the 6 books that I read in college about Native Americans, and it covers everything from ethics, understanding the spiritual aspect of the culture a little bit more. You look at a couple of tribes specifically in these books, and obviously they're all a little bit different. It's not just broadly they're all the same. Absolutely not. Check out other books from other regions. I studied those because that was kind of in the region I went to school in, and that was the reservations we were closest to. But obviously wherever you live, there's probably a reservation close by. So check out those books. Search on Amazon, you can usually find quite a few. A lot of them are academic, kind of heavy. Look through anthropology. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. And happy reading.